All right, guys, welcome back, and let's continue. So, in the previous lecture, we discussed about the inventory file in detail, and in this lecture, we are going to discuss about the configuration file. That's another important file in Ansible. We need to understand before continuing to the Ansible scripts. So, as its name suggests, configuration file means it has something to do with the configuration of Ansible. That is how Ansible behaves, or what parameters Ansible will use while running our scripts. So, as it mentions, it's the main configuration file to customize how Ansible's behavior is. So it's in the ini style, as we discussed in the previous lecture in detail, what ini style is, and is the same format with name sections as we discussed the groups that are mentioned. That's the name sections in the configuration file. There is a standard format in it. So we will discuss the important sections as well as the parameters, what goes on in the configuration files. So what this configuration file helps us is with it, we can control how Ansible runs and completely modulate according to our own needs. So how it will run globally, or how it will run according to the project that we are developing or an application that we are developing. So we can divide those customizable configuration files and tweak it into our own needs. Let's move on. All right. So this is a pretty basic example of what a configuration file is. So no need to worry if you don't understand any some parameters. So all the information of these parameters, there are hundreds of parameters that are present. You can find it under the Ansible documentation, which is freely available over on their site. So we'll just discuss quickly some important parameters. So this default section is very important. So here most of the parameters that we are going to use goes inside this default section. So here inventory that we discussed, the inventory file that we discussed in the last lecture. So from where the Ansible should pick up the inventory file, that location we can mention over here. So remote_user. So here we can mention the username that by which we will use to log in into the target server. And private_key_file. Suppose we are SSHing into a Linux host and we don't use classic username and password. We are using a private key, that is passwordless login to access the server. That location we can give over here. Then host key checking, that is if they have expired keys, is we can set it as false. Then timeout, that is before how much time your Ansible gives up and closes the session before SSHing. Suppose SSH is not successful. So after 30 seconds, is it going to stop automatically? Gathering is a concept where we will discuss in the third module, that is facts. So no need to worry about this now. We will discuss it in detail later, and it's an important concept as well. log_path is that is what all actions the Ansible takes and what all the steps it follows. So everything gets logged. So where these logs needs to be stored, that we can mention it over here. So here you can see other sections as well, which we can use. Suppose privilege escalation, that is you might have heard about sudo su, that is getting the highest, that is the root user's access to perform some actions. So this section is essentially used for that. Then SSH_ connection, that is few parameters regarding SSH can be present over here. Vault is also another concept that is used to store passwords safely inside Ansible. So that section can be also used in a configuration file. So this is a pretty basic example of how the file looks. Now I'll again give you 5 seconds. You can take a screenshot. These are a few parameters. Few of them we have discussed previously, and these are some common parameters also we can use inside our configuration. All right, let's move on. Now this is another new important concept that we need to understand. So as I mentioned, configuration files can be customized and can be placed anywhere in our code. So according to our own needs. So if there are multiple configuration files, suppose let's say take a scenario 1. Now etc/ansible/ansible.cfg. This is the default file which comes in when we install Ansible, and few parameters are already set. And suppose if we create a new configuration file using the same ansible.cfg name inside our playbooks directory where our playbook is set. So what do you think? Which configuration file will have a priority over here? Yeah. So if a configuration file exists in the directory where the playbook is present and from where it is run, so the configuration file that is present inside the folder will take priority over here, and yeah, Ansible whatever is present inside the local that is the default location will be overridden by it. So not necessary, but I'm not saying that the complete file will be overridden. Only the parameters that are newly set inside the ansible.cfg will be overridden. And if so few parameters, suppose the like for example over here, suppose the host key checking that we have not mentioned in our new file, that is the for under our new playbooks file. So it will by default use the parameter that is present at the default location. So it will only use those parameters which we explicitly mentioned in our playbooks. That is the new file. Let's take another scenario. So here these two scenarios are the same, that one is default location, one is made by us. Now the third scenario here is that we explicitly mentioned into through an environment variable that Ansible underscore gathering should be explicit. By default, it's set to be implicit. And suppose in these two files also, there we have mentioned implicit, but after exporting into an environment variable, we set it to explicit. So what do you think now the priority is going to be? Yeah. So as you can see, the first priority always goes to the environment variables. If during runtime those environment variables have been set, then it will take the those values and run the playbook. Secondly, if we haven't mentioned it over here, then it will take the value from if there is a configuration file present in our directory from where the playbooks are being run. So that will take the next second priority. Else it will fall back to the default location, that is the default standard template of configuration file that comes with Ansible. Hope this is clear. Let's move on. Yeah, so this is a complete list of the priority. It will start with the highest precedence level to the lowest. You can see first is the command line, that is while running Ansible playbook, we directly pass in some parameter and value, parameter and value, then it will take the highest precedence. Second will take the environment variable that we discussed in the previous slide. Third will take the ansible.cfg in current project directory that we also have seen, that is the under Lara playbooks and ansible.cfg the directory we had mentioned the new file. So fourth will be that the it will check once in the user's home directory. Fifth will be the that this one also we have mentioned that the etc ansible.cfg, that is the global default config, and the lowest priority will be the default Ansible settings which comes in with the Ansible code. All right, thank you, and we will discuss about variables and facts in the next lecture. Bye bye.